I think I have a really bad habit of turning my life into content. I think it can be really dangerous, and it can absolutely screw with my sense of self.
The Imperfects invites you into a very safe place. A place where we share without judgment and drink heaps of vulnerability. Grab yourself a cup. This is the Vulnerabilitea House. Just sort of dawned on me, this is actually quite a big moment in a similar way to when we had Linda Mariano on the show, where it's like Zan Rowe, such a big part of a certain part of my life when I was a huge Triple J listener. And to have Zan here, it's quite actually surreal. Like I was acting quite cool. I am quite cool. But when you were here, we were just chatting beforehand. But it's quite a significant thing when I really think about it that you're here, because I listen to you so much when you're doing mornings on Triple J. So much.
Did you feel safe?
I did.
I always feel safe when when Zan's talking on the radio.
True.
I feel safe.
That's
Absolutely.
true.
Welcome.
Thank you. I feel safe being here. I'm a little bit nervous. But weirdly, that music just made me feel like I was in one of those flotation tank eggs, and now I'm good.
Good. That's its purpose, so I'm glad it worked.
Who's to say you're not?
Calm me right down. Where am I right now? And why are you guys here?
Yeah, it's a very specific flotation tank.
It's a family tank.
It is.
Everyone's invited.
Yeah, it's slight discounted, but we all get to fit in.
I feel the same. I was thinking we've had some huge names on this show, but I'm probably as nervous, maybe the most I've ever been, because I respect Zan. I respect you so much.
Oh.
And the work you've done.
Thank you, and I'm sorry.
No, I've just gotten so much out of the work you've done. I respect and have loved everything you've done. So it's really exciting to have you on.
Oh, thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I never take it for granted that people listen, but I also have an experience where a lot of people come up to me and say, "You raised me." When they're older than me, it's a bit creepy. Yeah. Like, hang on a minute, how old do you think I am? But I was on Triple J for doing mornings for 12 years. It's a long time. And Triple J is such part of the fabric of what Australians are as they come of age, for many Australians. And so it is, I was very omnipresent on people's speakers and cast areas and stuff for a long time. And that's an amazing gift that will never, ever leave me and never get old either. So, yeah, I hope I live up to your expectations today.
You already have. You already have.
Well, the other part of it I'm now realising is you were such a big music influence for me as well. It's kind of like how you hear people say like, oh, I had an older brother, an older sister, or younger brother, younger sister, who loved music, and they kind of taught me everything about like what music to listen to. And you were really that part that were in my life, but in a lot of people's lives, that was the part you would have played for a lot of people.
Well, that's beautiful to hear, because that's how I found out about music. And I think that anyone who claims that they've discovered everything in themselves is lying, and maybe has a weird ego and they'll grow out of it. I was definitely one of those people for a while, but it takes a village, like anything. You learn about things through connections with others. I learned about great punk bands when I was coming of age through my best friend's big sister, who was going out to gigs and seeing these bands and then bringing the CDs home and stuff like that. And
for a moment there, I wasn't sure if my best friend's big sister was a punk band.
Also that. But it's like the whole reason I got into radio was because I love communicating and connecting, but I also really have always been very passionate about music and new music. And I was like, I just want to share this with other people. So I just always wanted to share it, and I still do it with Radio Today. I do like a monthly mixtape and share the things that I love every month. Like, it's still a huge passion for me, but being able to share that, because I got so much out of it and still do to this day, has been the great driving ambition and force throughout my whole career, I think. That's what I love doing.
Amazing.
I'm clearly not in it for the money. I work at the ABC.
Which says you really love what you do.
I do. And I that said, we always joke about the ABC not having any money. It's true, but also it is an amazing organisation to work in, and you get to make those connections, make smart things, make beautiful things, and be part of a national community, which is something that I never never ever sniff at either.
Well, speaking of the ABC and making beautiful things, Take 5 is your TV show, it's one of the few things that my wife Penny and I will stop and make sure we watch every single week. It's just a beautiful show.
Thank you.
Have you loved doing that?
Yeah, I have. It's just amazing to be able to take an idea that I started at Triple J in like 2006.
Yeah.
Wow.
A long time, and has always been interesting to me and interesting to the audience because it's a simple idea, and all the best ideas are simple ideas, right?
Yeah.
But also, again, it's about connection, and you don't have to be like a music nerd or a music aficionado. You can be someone who's just got a story. Everyone's got a story, and everyone's got a connection to some sort of music that's been part of that story. And I just learned very early on that you could find out people's stories without having to ask them direct questions, which sometimes they would. You would know this. Like, this is literally what you do every week. People find it hard to.
Ours is a bit different. We do Take 6, but yeah, I know what you mean.
And my lawyers will be speaking to you. But it's just finding that getting people to think about their life through the prism of something else enables them to relax. And then before you know it, they're telling their own story. You think they're talking about songs, but they're actually talking about their own story. And that's when, the vulnerability comes out as well.
And so I'd say to anyone who hasn't watched it yet, if you want somewhere to start, I'd start from the start, but the Guy Pearce episode is just, if you want an example of what you're just talking about there, the songs being almost like a passageway to his most vulnerable and incredible stories. He was just amazing. What an episode. Yeah,
that was a really phenomenal episode because Guy Pearce is like someone that many of us, including me, have grown up with, right? He's had an incredible career. But he's got a really interesting backstory, and he's also a musician, which I think a lot of people didn't realise. But we get the list of songs, and then we might get a couple of lines, or we can, through our own research, make connections as to why this person's picked this song.
If I could just to quickly explain to people who don't know what Take 5 is, it's like a guest brings in 5 different songs that mean something to them, and then they talk about each song.
Yeah, and I give them a theme so that it's not just your 5 favourite songs. So Guy Pearce's theme was songs that possess, because I thought he's an actor, he's got to inhabit all these roles, but what are the songs that inhabit him, that really take him to another place? So one of the songs that he picked was Kate Bush, Night of the Swallow. And right at the start of our Take 5, when we're sitting down to record, again, I had no idea why he picked it, but I'd read into the lyrics and I was like, I think I can tie this to a story in your life. But right at the start of the record, he's like, I'm not really a lyrics guy. And I'm like, oh my God, we've got it completely wrong. And I'm like, duck paddling madly underwater, just like smiling serenely because the camera's on me. It's not a radio studio where I can just be going, what the fuck? And then just going, oh God, what do we do? And then we get through the first song, and then he gets into the Kate Bush song, which, if you don't know, Night of the Swallow is a story about a woman who is begging her partner, who's a pilot, to not go on that flight. Please, something bad's going to happen. And he does, and he dies. Guy Pearce's father was a test pilot. His mother begged his father to not go on a plane because it was something that had a lot of issues. She didn't trust that he was going to be okay, and he died when Guy Pearce was very young. And this was a story that I didn't know. And it's that when he gets to that song, he's like, I told you I didn't really connect with lyrics until this. And I was just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
But it was amazing.
Wow.
And that's the way that you find a way in. And people want to tell their story because they see, like, everyone has heard a song and gone, oh my God, they're singing this about me. Or that tone, this is exactly how I feel right now. And songs can change meaning through our lives as well, which is something that I've really realised.
Yeah.
As you experience things, or as you get happier or sadder or whatever, angrier, more chirpy, they constantly change. They're like any sort of form of creativity. They're very malleable, and there's just an endless source of possibility with Take 5, and I love it. I'm just, as you can probably tell, I'm incredibly proud of it and incredibly grateful that we get to do this every week.
I think this last 10 minutes has given me a new idea for a podcast where we get someone famous and well-known in and we just tell them what we love about them and then they go, that's it.
Just call it external validation.
Well, this is really building me up before you absolutely destroy me with some vulnerability.
No.
That's the whole point of this. Yeah, we try to really make it uncomfortable.
Trojan horse of compliments. I see what's happening.
Well, I don't need to do a bio for you because we've sort of talked about a lot of what you've done, but I just want to acknowledge a line that Bridget, our producer, put in here, maybe as a power move, I'm not sure, but it says, It says, Zan Rowe is a broadcaster, TV presenter, music journalist and podcaster who is known as one of Australia's best interviewers. As someone's about to interview you, I feel like I've walked past Don Bradman on the streets and Don Bradman's going, hey, can you bowl me in the nets for a minute? It's kind of what it feels like here. But anyway, we're so excited to have you here. So should we do the Vulnerabilitea House cards?
We may as well, since it's the episode.
Yeah,
So
I think so.
Zan, how this works, as you can see, there's a deck of cards here, Imperfects Vulnerabilitea House cards. And on each card, there is a question which hopefully will invoke some memory or a vulnerable story that you may feel comfortable to tell. So if you just pick 3 cards, read out the 3 cards, and then if one of them speaks to you, then let's chat about it.
It's like tarot, isn't it?
The first one says death.
Yeah. But that's actually rebirth.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Okay, here we go.
Cards on the table.
What do you got?
Cards are on the table, and I am seeing a witch. No. All right. Oh, this is good. How do you think people might talk about you behind your back?
Oh, that's such a scary one.
It's the bogey card. Yeah.
Yes, that's something that I think about quite a lot.
Mm.
How would your ambitions change if you only had 1 year to live? Oh, that's a good one. I feel like that is particularly prescient following the pandemic.
Yeah.
We're all in Melbourne. I know that everyone experienced the pandemic in different ways. No person experienced it. Well, actually, some people did experience a lot worse than others, but we're not pitting cities against each other. But I definitely felt keenly from someone who lived in Melbourne that it changed the way that I think about life forever.
Yeah.
And career.
And that stays with you
family.
now?
It stays with me now, yeah.
Wow.
I think it just stays with a lot of people, regardless of where you are. I have so many conversations with people who are just blowing up their lives in a great way post-pandemic, and they always refer to that. I mean, maybe they're just turning 40 or something, who knows? It's not the pandemic, it's age.
Previously known as a midlife crisis. Yeah.
Just give a name to it. It'll work. Just need the language. How did your parents or guardians influence the way you feel about yourself today? That's an amazing question too.
So, look, you don't have to choose
Do I need
just
to lie
one.
down on a couch now?
Yeah, ideally.
I kind of like the middle one because it's something that I've been thinking about keenly for the last couple of years.
So that's the ambitions. How would the ambitions
How would
change?
my ambitions change if I only had 1 year to live?
I love this.
Yeah.
God, I'm excited.
I would definitely stop working.
Completely.
1 year?
Really? You would stop working? So when you say...
Why would you work if you had 12 months left to live?
Maybe you're going to explain, maybe you're already going to explain this, but in my mind, I love what I do. So I would maybe stop working to get paid, but I would keep making things.
That's a very, very important delineation, actually. Yeah.
Sorry, this is your thing.
No, it's good. Now I'm spiraling. I think that one of the first, and again, this speaks directly to feeling loss of control and unable to go anywhere, do anything, and just feeling very untethered during the pandemic and lockdowns and specifically. Being out of that and going, okay, now that we know what we know and that things can change, and I'm quite a controlling person. I don't do well not having control. So lockdowns were, hard. I had a panic attack for the first time. I was like, I'm breezing through life. I've never had anxiety. Then you just get older, don't you, and you start creeping in. But they were quite difficult for me and for many others.
The panic attack just came out of nowhere? It was just with no prior warning?
Yeah.
Yeah, whoa, that would have been terrifying.
Yeah. And my partner, bless him, who's had many panic attacks, was like, knew what was happening and he just guided me through it. But I was just like, yeah, shout outs to everyone who experiences panic attacks. What an awful experience.
Yeah.
I've never had one, but yeah, I know Josh has spoken about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. Having not really ever considered myself an anxious person to then, for me, it hit me like a truck. And like I've spoken about it, I think in detail on the show before, but it was terrifying because it was so physical.
That's the thing that really threw me. And again, that's that thing of like, I can control all the parts of my body. I'm very lucky to be able-bodied and my brain is here and then my physical body is here and I know how they all work separately. And if I'm feeling down, then my body still works, right? But
That's what I used to think.
yeah. And then I'm in a position where I'm in my kitchen and all of a sudden I can't breathe. And so I go out the back and I sort of scream a little bit. I'm like, what's happening? And I'm making myself worse. But I'm like, go out the back and because I think I just need to get some air and I can't breathe. I'm like, why am I dying? Which is what, now I know anyone I've spoken to who's had a panic attack. It's like, yeah, that's what you feel like. You're like, I need to go to the hospital. I need to have a physical fix for this mental problem.
Yeah.
But all of that, I've only ever had one other panic attack since, and it wasn't as bad as that. But now it's like, okay, knowledge is power. I know what's happening here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's going to pass.
Do you mind me asking was there something that triggered it specifically?
I think it was, the only thing I can tie it to was it was deep in maybe the 5th lockdown, and it was just kind of like a lack of control. When are we going to get out of this?
Yep.
Is this it? What's, how do we move forward? Just feeling despondent and not being able to change anything, no matter what we did, not being able to change it, no matter all the things that we did that were right, nothing shifting. Of course they did shift, but when you're in it, like anything, you feel like you're drowning. But coming out of that, I just sort of thought, how do I want to spend my days? What do I want to do with the time that I have left? I constantly think about death in a good way, in like a stoicism way. I think about the death of people that I love because I'm not prepared for that at all, and I've really got to get myself death ready.
So you sort of
that's the next TV show. Getting death ready.
I'm shredding for stereo and getting death ready.
Wow.
So do you mind me asking more about that? Because I wonder if I do a similar thing. Like, are you saying you sort of go through the process of to a degree of what it's going to be like to lose someone you care about?
Yes.
That's the Stoics way, isn't it? That's Marcus Aurelius would do that every night.
Yep. And that, realigns what matters. Hence, what would I do with only a year to live? And I think about how I spend my time, I haven't seen mum and dad for a while. Like, they're going to die. I'm really close to my parents. And they're going to die because we all die. And I'm not ready for that at all. And I really don't want it to happen. But I got to get ready for that. So, but in thinking about that, I think, next time they say something that really annoys me, know that they're not going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Be kind, be present, be appreciative. I guess that speaks to that card. When I saw that, how did your parents or guardians influence the way you feel about yourself today? My parents, I had a great childhood where my parents made me feel supported and like I could do anything without putting any pressure or an expectation on me. And I had a very fun childhood. I had 2 older brothers. They were terrors and they traumatized me, but not in a bad, not in like a, criminal way, in just a big brother, you're awful way. But I grew up in a space where I felt really, really supported, which I came to realize as I got older that not everyone has that experience, right? Friends of mine didn't have that experience. People that I've spoken to haven't had that experience. I've been very lucky. But yeah, it just makes me think about paying that back. And not just paying it back, but spending time with the people that, created this environment and appreciated them while they're here. Because they're awesome. I really love my folks.
Yeah.
They're really nice people to be around. They're really interesting and curious and funny and daggy, and they drive me nuts, but they're just, I would spend a lot of time with them if I had 1 year left to live. And I'd apologise that I was leaving before them, but also be quietly happy that I didn't have to deal with their death as well.
What a relief. There's silver linings in this thing.
All that time I
Didn't have
spent
to get
imagining
death
it.
ready for you guys. I'm out.
Did you at any point, or have you at any point done a take 5 with your parents?
No, because I don't want to sound brutal, but who would listen to that?
I think a lot of people would.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
think so.
even for yourself to hear.
I'm very much about like audiences. Like, what do audiences want?
I was thinking when you said that, I was imagining you doing that just for your own sake, not to publish anywhere, just so you could hear maybe some stories from your parents' past that maybe they hadn't told you before.
That's something that I definitely think, I do want to do that. And particularly when my grandparents lived to a very ripe old age, they were 95 and 96. and died in the last few years, my mother's parents. And she started taking down like an oral history. And I think that that's such a great thing to do. Also because it happens so often that parents lose their identities in families, I think. They're just your parents. Like kids have egos. Adults have egos too. I have an ego, but we just think they're there to raise us and to support us, right? But they have this world of stories that they've, still lived, or they just push aside a little bit because they want to make sure that we're okay and we're getting everything that they need.
Yeah.
But, mum and dad had amazing lives, which I've heard, bits and pieces about them. They're really good people. They've done a lot in communities, worked in volunteer organisations. They sound like saints. I'm sure they've done awful things as well. But I do really look up to them. I take a lot of good traits and knowledge and wisdom from them because of the way that they've led their lives.
Yeah. I mean, this is very relevant to us, and we might not put this in.
Yeah, well, I checked with, but I know you
check
could
with mum and dad.
Yeah.
But so everything you're saying really hits home because we're doing a shoot for the Resilience Project, and I got 2 missed calls in a row from Josh, which is I've never had that before. I don't think you never called and then called again, and then a text message saying, "Can you please call me?" And you've never sent me a message like that before, and I just knew something was wrong. And when I called him, my hands were shaking, and Josh answered the phone. He was in tears already, and the first thing he said was, "Everything's okay." So I got a softer version than you got, but you said to me, "Dad's
had a heart attack."
Yeah, Dad's had a heart attack. Dad's 75. He's in great health, and Dad is fine. He's made a full recovery, a complete and full recovery. He was playing golf 3 weeks later or something. So, but it was just to your point just then. It was a very nasty but almost good shock in that it was a reminder that there was a second where I didn't know. And Josh would have had the same experience probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
That call though, it's terrifying.
It was awful.
Because it's coming for us all. And I've been thinking a lot recently. It is, parents are 75 and I was thinking it's coming. Like it might be in 10 years, it might be 15 years, but it wouldn't be completely, if it happened. When you called, I just thought this is it. And to what you said before, it's just a reminder that you are so fucking lucky that they're still here. Do not miss the next little bit. Don't miss it.
Yeah,
I've been not present for certain parts for different reasons.
Yeah.
When I say not present, not making the most of that fact. And so
we take it for granted because they're always around, right?
Yeah.
But there is a finite nature to life.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
what
scary.
it made me think, Zan, was that. So let's say my parents live until hopefully let's say they live until
200.
I mean, technology's helping.
Yeah,
so
it is.
I mean, let's say I live until I'm 90. That would be lovely if I do. But let's say I live till I'm 90. That means I'll have mum and dad in my life for half of my life. And for half of my life, I won't have them.
Yeah,
that is such a long time to not have them in my life. I'm in that half right now where I've got them. Like I'm in that half where there's going to be half of my life where I'm wishing mum and dad were here so I could tell them something or let them know something or get them to see their grandkids. I'm in that half now. I've got to remember that. It's so important. And that's what it's made me realise.
I think also people don't realise that when you're an adult, you can still be an orphan. Like having, when you lose parents, we think about orphans as little kids, but losing a parent is it's like losing your ceiling. And all of a sudden it's like, oh God, there's nothing above me anymore.
Yeah, gosh, what a great way of putting it.
But there's something very comforting about that. It's literally protecting you.
Yeah.
There's always someone above you, but then you lose that and you're like, it's just me now.
Yeah.
Which is fine because we're resilient. Literally, this is the name of the game, right? Being resilient. But God, it helps when we've got people, particularly if you've been lucky to grow up with supportive parents that are above us and you always know, like if, they know who you are, they're there to set you on your path. They're just around, and to not take that for granted, I think is really important.
Yeah, I find it strange that I'm really willing to have such vulnerable conversations, and I do have them with mum and dad. But the thing you brought up before about doing a take 5 with your parents, or if we were to, I feel really nervous about the idea of asking mum or dad to do talk to them about their life and really ask big questions in a way that I don't feel nervous about asking other people. And I don't know why that is. And it feels so stupid because as soon as the day they're gone, and if I haven't done it, it'll be the biggest regret of my life, I think.
You mean to do it publicly or to do it
not publicly, privately. Just have those conversations. I don't know if I'm scared of maybe there's something in having those conversations where I feel like it's going to not dethrone them, but change the relationship so much from that parent-child thing to it'll shift it so much that I'm kind of scared of that. I'm not sure I'm ready for that fundamental shift of seeing them more outside the role of a parent. Maybe
it's nice being the kid.
Yeah, maybe I still want to be the kid.
And you have that narrative of them. But like anything, again, sort of shitty analogy, but this speaks totally to my sort of thoughts of control as well. It's like, cool, if I keep on going this path, then I know exactly these little blinkers here. I know exactly where it's going to lead if all goes well, and we'll get to that and that's all good. The alternative is open it way up and you've got this big kind of 180 view, 360 if you like, and you don't know where it's going to go. Terrifying.
Yeah, it's more scary.
But also, look at all that possibility there. And that's something that is, the very crux of it. It's like you don't know where it's going to go, but one of the possibilities is it changed your relationship forever. Many other possibilities are it's an absolutely mind-blowing conversation where you learn so much more and you take away something that surely after your parents have passed and my parents have passed, you'll say to yourself, I wish I'd had that conversation. I wish I knew more about them. I wish I'd listened to them about their lives. And that's like, this is really, not to make it a professional or career thing, but this is actually a lesson that I had to learn myself because when I first started out as a music journalist, I wanted to prove to people that I knew what I was talking about, particularly as a female music journalist. People undermine you and undervalue you a lot more than male music journalists. And I felt like I had to really show people I know my stuff, and I would be talking at people and trying to control the conversation so that everyone knew I knew what I was talking about. The much scarier prospect is asking a very short question and having no idea where it's going to go. But that takes confidence and it leads to the best conversations ever. But it takes a lot of work to be able to get to that because you're just flying into this unknown, sailing into this massive sea. You don't know where it's going to go. But pretty much every time it's going to be better than the controlled end that you're going to.
Do you, I'm fascinated to know, do you remember when that changed? Do you remember a time of making that decision in an interview or in your work to embrace the unknown a bit more?
Yeah, I remember listening back to myself going, shut up. Like, stop blabbering.
Okay.
It's not about you. No one cares that you know all this stuff. Don't give them freaking Wikipedia bio in the question. The preamble. Stop with the preamble. And also I think it's just, it's testing it, seeing that it works and having the confidence to try it and try it again. And also weirdly in the confidence, remembering that it's not about you. Yeah. It's about the person that you're listening to. It's about their story.
What a great analogy for life.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've learned is no one's looking at you.
Yeah. Well, you've been on radio though, so.
But honestly, like no one cares because everyone's totally worried about themselves.
No one cares.
No one cares.
No one cares.
And if they care for about 2 seconds. Yeah. Someone just drove past you and splashed you with water. Next. Yeah. No one cares. Doesn't matter.
I think even less so now. Like there's so much information hitting eyeballs and ears that I feel like people care for less time than they even used to 10 or 15 years ago.
100%.
Yeah, they're on to the next thing.
I mean, we've seen so many examples of people doing either incredible things or heinous things, and a week later, it's like, oh, remember when that happened a week ago? It's like, it was everything about a week ago, and now we're not even thinking about it.
Just keep going. But that can work to your advantage as well. It can give you power to go, oh, well, if I step out and I fall over, then next.
How do you think that because you've been, like you said, you've been working in radio and specifically focused on music for 20 years, or even, I mean, since you're a teenager, I guess, with how everything has changed in that way where things can be really big and they go away, how's that affected music in your experience? Because like the thing we know, like the thing that I immediately think of is, we used to buy an album, listen to it for months, and now that doesn't exist as much anymore. How have you seen the change?
The value of music is completely different. In the same way that you used to have, when I was growing up, just a few not a few, but like a big handful of big artists. You don't really have those artists anymore. And if they are, they're the heritage acts. You don't have artists. I mean, you've got Taylor Swift and Drake and Beyonce, but you just had these artists that have these kind of careers that would be lifelong careers, and that's less and less the case. But also that value, the transactional nature of music, the fact that people don't listen to records, it's just about songs, it's about playlists. It completely changes not just the consumption of the art, but the creation of the art. And I think it's a really hard time to be an artist. I see that every day, frontline, artists just struggling because they don't make any money from their music. Touring is very hard. Touring is very expensive at the moment. Audiences are stretched thin. But also our connections to music are really different. Like, kind of bad example, I keep my CD collection from when I was coming up in community radio and everything.
So jealous you've still got that. I wish
I've
I kept
shipped it all over the place, up to Sydney, back again. I'll never let it go. Like, I've culled it. Remember that whole period where lounge music was really in? I got rid of all those compilations.
Oh, yes. The lounge era.
Like leopard print CD cases and stuff.
Oh, my God.
Like, you know what? That's one I can probably listen to on Spotify.
Cafe Lounge or something like
fidelity.
that. Yeah. Sort of like the Cafe Del Mar.
Yeah, is that what it is?
That was a whole era
Yeah.
too, wasn't it? But that's like my memory bank, but also, again, is very tied to stories and part of my life, and it's a very physical memory for me. Some of the bands don't exist anymore, and I look at that and I'm like, this is my coming of age in front of me. This is all my stories and my memories, and I can pull them out, which is why Take 5 works for everyone, but particularly I connect with it deeply because, you know, music is sensory memory. And it can just trigger you into moments that you thought you'd forgotten about all the time. And I do that. Like, I put a CD on and I'm straight back there. And I'm doing that intentionally because I want to go back there. But I don't know whether that exists as much. I'm time traveling every day.
Yeah. I find there's a few songs I've got that, and I don't want to listen to them too much because I'm aware that the more I listen to them now,
you change the relationship.
It's like it'll erase the old memory.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I think it's different. I don't want to speak for people who consume music. I don't want to be that old person that talks about like how it was different in my day and all that sort of stuff. But I do think that the transactional nature of music, the value of music has completely shifted. And it's way more disposable now, and people don't really, you know, when you bought that CD and it cost $25 or $30 and you played that to death. You played all the album tracks. No one thinks about the album tracks anymore. It's just like the singles.
I really miss the days of going into Sanity or maybe sort of post brushes, but maybe more like Sanity, you know, that era where you'd go in, or HMV, and you only were going to buy one CD. And so you ask the staff member if you can go to one of the listening stations and listen to these 5.
Yeah.
And then you listen to them and then you choose which one you're going to buy. Like, it's so intentional. And then the one that you choose is you go home with it, and then you put it on, you listen to it.
It's an investment.
Yeah. Oh, miss that.
I feel like the owner of JB must have like this, because JB Hi-Fi still have a huge CD section. I feel like he just must be very nostalgic. And he's like, no, I'm going to keep
They're
the
still
CD.
selling CDs.
So many.
Not vinyl. I know they sell vinyls, but CDs as well.
So huge CD
That's
collection.
staggering to me.
I think because the audio quality's far superior.
Oh, now I'm sounding on the audio quality.
Yeah.
You hear when you haven't listened to a CD for a while and you put it on, you're like, oh God, streaming services are really compressed.
Yeah.
It sounds so rich and great.
Yeah.
So just on the question, we're talking about death and you saying being death ready. Is there have you thought about, I know this is I feel like it's like a tacky question to ask you, but I'm just really interested. Is there a song that you would like played at your funeral?
Great question.
Tacky question, but I'm interested.
Weirdly, I haven't thought about that yet, which is strange because I think that anyone with half an ego probably would. But I haven't thought about that. I mean, I definitely have a playlist, and I would definitely make it myself.
I mean, you could do, by that stage, you'll be able to create like an AI clone version of yourself and do a Take 5 with you
At your own funeral.
What a punish.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Isn't she gone already? Oh God, she's back in hologram form.
Take 5ing yourself.
horrible. I'm never going to do that. Famous last words. It's a great idea.
Have you ever done a take 5?
Yeah, I actually did one with Linda Mariano.
Oh, great.
When I left Triple J and moved to Double J, we did a take 5 together because she was taking over mornings, and we did a take 5 with the theme of things that I'd learnt through my years at Triple J. And it's really hard. I was like, picking 5 songs sucks.
This is asking a lot.
Tasting my own medicine. But yeah, it's a great experience. It's a beautiful conversation. I don't think I've ever done a take 5 with anyone that hasn't ended in a hug. Like it's always been a really beautiful experience. So,
is there a song though that stands out to you?
Oh God!
He really wants an answer.
In fact, I'll give you a theme. The song that moves. What is the song that makes you most teary?
Oh, this is going to sound really wanky, but probably some Bach.
You are speaking my language, babe.
Like just something that's really emotional, but also you can find your own meaning in it. You know, like
not
I did
bound
not
by
expect you to
lyrics.
say that.
Not bound by lyrics, sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I think you can still do in lots of that's great pop songs. You can figure out whatever you want in there. You can make your own meaning out of it. But
Yeah.
Bach is it's really emo. That would get everyone crying.
Well, like I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Once you go Bach, you never go back. I mean, what a perfect
Can
chance
you
to say that
MC
one.
my funeral?
Done.
So I am gonna. This is me definitely showing off, but I'm actually in a classical music club where we review a piece of music every.
Is it like a book
Your
club
big
but for
show off?
classical music? Oh my, I love that.
Thank you so much. But I always take Bach along. I've never not done Bach. And I was talking to Megan, who's the host of ABC Classic Breakfast, who's going to be our guest.
Oh, she'll be a great guest.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Firecracker.
Do they know?
Yeah, I had to run it past them because I was like, I wanted to make sure that it's something they wanted and they wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, and I said to her, am I too one-dimensional that I always take Bach along? And she said, no, because Bach makes mathematical sense to our brain, Bach. And I couldn't agree more. Anyway. All those Bach fans out there, you're loving this bit.
Wow.
Well, I always think with classical music and I love all forms of music, but you can't poo-poo anything that's been popular for hundreds and hundreds of years. Talk about the transactional nature of music, trends, all that sort of stuff. Classical music has really hung in there. They must be doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
definitely.
right.
And Corn, that's still going.
Corn's also good, yeah.
Corn and Bach. Corn, Limp Bizkit and Bach. Yeah.
New metal and classical music, timeless.
Yeah, absolutely. There was something, so at the very start when you're talking about, when you answered the card for the first time and you said that you would stop working, so that, obviously that kind of jumped out at me as you'd stop working, but I assume work for you is such a big part of your life. But, I mean, I'm just assuming that. So, how big a part is, Take 5 and radio and the TV show, how big a part of that in your mind is that part of your identity?
Oh,
do you think?
Really big, dangerously big, I would say. Something that I am chipping away at changing every year, but always slip back, particularly now that, as we're recording, I've just come off season 2 of Take 5 airing. And it's been received really well, and the ego is well and truly stoked, and the centre of my world has been plugging, pitching, selling, and that's just consumed my life, and it's all I've been talking to people about. And as I've been doing that, I've been conscious of oh, shut up, Zan. There's things happening in the world that have got nothing to do with this. You're just consumed by this. Something that I am constantly trying to keep in check, but also I think, particularly when I've had a very public life, specifically coming through Triple J and being there for so long that people think they know me, and in many ways they do, but I want to have part of my life for myself as well, and also have part of it that's got nothing to do with music. I got really into gardening recently, but then I did a segment on Gardening Australia, so I still made it about work. But it was really great, and I try to keep that separately. I try to not post pictures of my plants on Instagram. It's stop commodifying it. I'm not doing it I don't do any SponCon or anything, but it's just I think I have a really bad habit of turning my life into content. And that's a producer's and a content maker's brain, but I think it's I think it can be really dangerous, and it can absolutely screw with my sense of self because, you know, for all the good things that come your way, there'll be a tipping point or a bad episode of something or a mistake I make where people give me critical feedback or are just outright mean. And if I'm going to read all the good stuff, then I've got to be okay to read the bad stuff. And I definitely read some cooked stuff when I was at Triple J. That text line, which you've probably heard people talk about, is a direct line that people can text in whatever they want, and you're on air and you're presenting, performing, connecting with the whole nation, and there's people just sending you messages and you're reading it. And that can be really brutal, and that can mess with your sense of self as well. But yeah, I need to know and be okay with and celebrate and love the person I am when I'm not Triple J, Double J, ABC TV, Zan Rowe, which is really hard.
Are you good at that? Can you do that?
Yeah, I was going
I'm
to say
trying.
How do you? Because how do you do that? If you don't mind me asking.
Look, I was actually here to ask you guys, how do I do that?
We're still, that's why we have the podcast to figure this out.
We're trying to work this out. Yeah.
I think finding things that have got nothing to do with my job is really helpful. Listening to others, making time, and that's a, you know, up and down thing for me. My partner is not in media. He's a teacher actually, and in education, and having a different world is a blessing, but I think also my conversations about my work, because I think what I do is really exciting. Education's really exciting too, but I just like dominate. I'm just really, I can be a bit of a terror.
In what sense? Like as far as like because you're known?
I just think that I hang out with cool people.
Yeah.
I know I sound like a wager, but it's like, I've had a good day. I want to tell you about it.
Yeah.
But then I realize at the end of that, I'm like, oh yeah, and how was your day? I'm like, ask that first, Zan. Like, make it about someone else. So I just think that I get very swept up in the worlds that I'm in, and I think I've made a lot of friends, very gratefully made a lot of friends through my work, because the places I've worked have been very social. People are aligned, you know, culturally and socially with me in terms of the things that they like. So my whole world socially and during the day at work has been in the media. I don't think that's good though.
Is there, like, with that in mind, that you're, you know, trying, because I completely relate to that, like trying to kind of separate, trying to give real meaning to things that you don't get praise for, like to give real meaning to like things outside of work and outside of the media. If you think about like all the moments in your life, is there a moment on air or off air that you think of as like your most successful?
Oh, this is a weird one, but I think I'm psychoanalyzing my answer in real time as I'm about to say this. I'll be honest, right off the cuff, I just think of my last day at Triple J, which is a weird thing because I was leaving a job, but you spend years speaking out as a broadcaster. Literally, it's broadcasting. It's one person or a couple of people to many, and you're like, is anyone there? Are they listening? Are they connecting? And there'd been texts over the years, and people had come up to me at music festivals and stuff like that. But on my last day, as I had this great celebratory show, I was very ready to leave. I'd been there for a long time. I was adamant that I was not going to be at Triple J when I was 40. And I left, and the text line just filled with all of these incredible personal connections, like the stuff that you were saying, Josh, that I'd never necessarily heard before. And I just felt like all the reasons that I had gotten into radio and that had driven me, like it had been for something, you know, and it still exists, and I still have that connection. I still have that incredible relationship with my audience that I'm so grateful for and I never take for granted. But I had it there in reams of texts of people talking about moments in their life where, you know, I'd played a song and said something about it and that had stuck with them. And I've had those moments. Like, I understand that feeling and that connection and how that stays with you. And that was just...
That's been overwhelming.
It was so overwhelming. Like, I printed it out because I'm an absolute dork.
Oh, no, I
I've
would
got
do
them
that,
on
yeah.
A4 sheets.
Yeah.
Good. So you should.
Yeah.
Stapled them, put them in my filing cabinet. But it was amazing because I was like, oh, yeah, that's I did what I wanted to do and what I set out to do, and it's all about that connection with people, and it's about the feeling that I got when I was a kid and someone was introducing me to something or telling me something that I didn't know, and I've been able to share that with other people, and that's success to me, right? That's success.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's so there's something about the printing out and the way that comes through that is so feels much more real. Because I like for what I'm about to say, because I shut down my Instagram because I just a lot of what you're saying before about taking the good with the bad, and I found myself seeking compliments for stuff, and also just wasting so much time on it. But what you're talking about there is so real and so connected and so wonderful and so genuine. It's like, I feel like maybe Instagram is but the people reaching out would, I don't know, I'm finding it all very confusing.
But it's a reframing. It's like, I think what you're talking about is like, it's a reframing of, because on any given day, if I was you, I would take all that as like, I am brilliant. Like, and believe it as like, look how good I am, which is just so unhelpful. But like to reframe it, like look at the connections I made and look at how their life was better even for a moment because of something that I was able to do. Like that's a reframing in my mind.
Well, that's just like, why I got into it. So that's why it resonated with me, I think. But speaking to that thing of like positive and negative feedback, let's call it.
Yeah.
DMs can be really brutal. Can be really brutal coming from someone that doesn't know you and has never met you. And the worst thing about it is you can get 10 amazing bits of feedback and one negative, and the negative is all you'll think about.
Oh, yeah,
It just dominates. You can get 100 great comments and one that is not even like terrible, but that just sticks in your brain. That's our brains spiral in that way. And it's really unhealthy. But you try to it's easier said than done, but I think one of the other things, and this might actually, Ryan, speak to what you were talking about before about how I find myself outside of my work self, is that if I ever see stuff I'm like, that is hurtful to me, I'm like, they don't know me. They don't know who I am or what my life story is. This is their perception of me. Importantly, I can't change that. It's another Stoic principle. All you can do is, control your actions, your reactions, and your character. I can't control what you think of me, Hugh. Like, it's like I got no control over that. And trying to control that is just going to make you more upset, angry, sad. So it's very much easier said than done.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like that logic worked for me until you're confronted with it. Goes out the window. But I think Hugh said something to me that was really interesting, which was, I think which I thought was counterintuitive, but you're like, I think the only way to get better at receiving insults is to receive more, because you start to just go, well, I just can't.
I will say that the Triple J text line gave me the thickest skin ever.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I wouldn't encourage it, but
it's a brutal way to get there.
Yeah, just build up the callus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Get some corns.
Yeah.
It'd be like an extreme sport of the future. Be trolled.
The untrollable. Yeah. I'm fascinated that you said before that your work is maybe concerningly too much of who you are, but then your answer to the question was to stop working for a year. What's going on there? Is the question.
Well, I think isn't it obvious? It's like, what else is there? I've got 1 year to find out. I think also I was really lucky to have long service leave in 2019. It was literally on the cusp of the pandemic. And I went away for 4 months from like the end of 2019 into like January 2020. So it was right there. And I thought, I'm going to take so long to wind down. Who am I without work? What does life mean? And within 2 days, I was just like off.
Jeez.
And I loved it. And it's the first time in my life, because I've been hustling and working, volunteering, trying to do everything I can to pitch myself to people to get, I've worked very hard. I'm really proud of that. But I've been doing it since I was little. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to handle this. And I loved it. I loved not working.
What did you do every day? What kind of stuff were you doing that you loved?
I went to Mexico for a big part of it.
Okay, yeah.
And I just travelled and explored, ate lots of good food, beach hopped, went to places I hadn't been to before. saw some gigs, flew to New York to see some shows because it was close. Mexico City, New York, pretty close. And just kind of enjoyed, I think one of the things that, and maybe this speaks to what I think about as work and why I wouldn't want to work. One of the best things, even though I was in these amazing places and it was incredible, the best thing about being on long service leave was waking up with no obligations, which is a really privileged and trite thing to say, but it's how I felt. And I think that for me, work, and particularly the kind of work I do in a place that is not as well resourced as others, I have to work very hard to create what I do with a small team. I have to turn up and be places and work lots of long hours, lots of overtime, and always be on. I love the work I do, but it does take a lot of who I am. And I think that taking that away, I'd still love to create, but what if I didn't have to be in all these places and turning up and being inside a radio studio and doing that? Like, it's still awesome, but what else is there? But really influenced by the pandemic too, like that feeling of being able to have that freedom and then going through this intense lockdown. I was like, thank God I was able to do that. What a gift. If we'd shuffled that a few months ahead, it would have been gone. But then coming out of that and throwing myself back into things and getting really burned out again. So I'm again, like the Imperfects, all these things that I'm saying, I have to constantly reinforce for myself. I'm constantly contradicting myself and a work in progress.
What does burnout feel like to you?
I think that the biggest feeling I had when I was last burned out was that I was doing all the things that were my dreams come true and I wasn't enjoying any moment of it. I'd pitched a TV show and had been trying to get a music TV show onto primetime TV for years, and it had finally come through, but I added that to the pile of all the other things that I did, because in order to do something new, I couldn't stop the other things I was doing. I just had to keep on doing more. And I remember specifically being, on shoots or in research moments, and I love research. I love nerding out on just going down that rabbit hole and finding out things that you never would have had you not had the opportunity to go, let's look into this now. It's like, yes, let's do that. It's just a joy to me. But I was just constantly stressed and upset and literally like running physically from one place to the other, doing TV meetings while I was on air, like getting a Teams meeting up, turning down this, like playing songs and then going, cool, yeah, how are we going to do this?
Oh my
Just
gosh.
like the worst kind of multitasking. And just going, this is awful. Like, I'm not in it. This is my idea that's come to life. What a friggin' dream. What a gift to have this. And I can't be in it because I have to feed all these other things. And it was just, and I was also just physically exhausted. And but I think that thing of like, I've got there, it's hit. This is success. And I'm having the worst time ever. Yuck.
Oh.
And I never want to do that again because it just felt like, what a terrible feeling. Like, you get to do this, how great, but you're just like, you're not enjoying any of it.
Oh, that's such a rude awakening. It is.
It was really weird. I never thought that it would manifest that way. Like, you think about burnout, you get all those, classic burnout sort of symptoms. You get sick, you get tired, but like just not enjoying your dream come true.
I'm just still stressed thinking about you having a Teams meeting while you're on air. That is so stressful.
I mean, I'm just actually stressed about you having to use Teams. Never works.
Fair.
How long did that go for? How long did the burnout process, like, did you feel like that before you sort of told yourself, no, I got to change this situation?
Yeah, it was, I felt it keenly throughout the whole shooting of the first series in 2022. Yeah. And I just knew something had to change. I'd already been thinking though, I'd been thinking for a while, I think it's time for me to try to do something differently. And I sort of tried to make those changes, but it just wasn't able to happen. yeah, I got to the point where I was like, to be really candid, I was ready to quit my job because I just was like, I can't keep going. I need someone to hear what I'm saying, and I can't keep doing 3 jobs. I don't know if it's like an arrested development that I have because I worked at Triple J for so long, but when I think about myself, I think I'm still the little kid who's the hustler. I don't think I'm a 45-year-old woman who has a TV show, a national radio show, 2 podcasts, is published. I just think, I literally sometimes still think, if things go bad, I can just pick up a second job at a bar. Like I literally think that sometimes, which I still could. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I think about how am I going to, if things fall over, how am I going to keep paying the rent, keep paying the bills? And I've got to I think that's why I just kept on taking on more things because of that idea of scarcity, that you should be grateful and that in order to do the things that you want to do, you just have to add them onto the things that other people want you to do. You can't take a risk. Yeah. And I'm learning more that I can and I should go into that great unknown, which is big and scary, and see what happens if I take a risk. But it's, again, hard. Depending on what day you get me, I'm like, no friggin' way. I'm quitting my job. The next day it's like, I'm out of here. It's weird.
Yeah. It all makes total sense to me. The hustler that you're talking about, the young Zan, the kid who was hustling and working so hard, because you don't get to the position you're in and having the career you've had without working so hard. Where do you think that drive comes from? Or what's the motivating factor for that relentless hard work? Absolutely
my parents.
Okay.
They're both workaholics, but they're also they're very pragmatic in the way that they approach work. They taught me to get things done, but also Mum said something that's really simple but got me through. I specifically remember she told me this in year 12 when I was smashing no-dos and trying to get my last just the glimmer of understanding. Yes. It's an awful feeling. No-dos is that like caffeine tablets you bought from 7-Eleven.
I remember that.
Make you feel absolutely fried, but trying to get my last assignments in. And she would just pop her head into the bedroom door and be like, 1 foot in front of the other, you'll get there. And that I still think that when I'm feeling overwhelmed. And it's a really simple thing, it's just like just one bite at a time and you'll finish it. 1 foot in front of the other and you'll get there. So I think that just knowing the importance of completing what you did, I've always had that, doing the best that you can. And I've also just been a really competitive person from a young age. So wanting to strive and do the best I can, but also be recognised for that has been really important for me. It's really healthy.
sounds it. I don't know what is a healthy. I'm sure there is one, but a healthy motivating factor to be successful. Like I think it's probably always a cocktail of stuff, isn't it? Like there'd be the excitement of the work, but also like for me, I'll just speak for me, but there's like, I think there's probably a little bit of, well, for years I think I was trying to prove to myself and mainly other people that I was good at, that I was actually not that I wasn't good, that I wasn't shit at this. But it's been since sort of a left-hand turn into this career, that's no longer how I really feel. And I'm now just more motivated by the excitement of doing it with you guys and the team and the people that I do it with, which is a really grounding thing. But yeah, I'm not sure. Sorry.
That actually resonates hugely. I think that, and this is probably something that a lot of people feel as well. When you're younger, you have this very individualistic approach of like, hey, you're going to crack through, do it yourself, be recognised. And then as you get older, the fulfillment comes from community and from connection and collaboration. And that's something that I've really felt as well. Radio is really isolated. Radio at the ABC, and particularly Triple J and Double J, is very much DIY. Yeah. You're sort of doing it all yourself, editing, all that kind of stuff. And that's how I sort of was fine and to work with. But now working in TV and working with all these different collaborators, I'm like, oh my God, this is such an enriching experience. There's so many different perspectives, different ways of thinking about things. But I think also that that's something that happens with age. When we're young, we're so determined to show the world, here I am and I can do it all myself and aren't I great? And then as you get older, you're like, why would I do it that way? That's boring. I'm never going to learn anything, but also you have experiences of being with others and realizing how much more that, it lifts everyone up, and not just from a success point of view, but from a happiness point of view.
Yeah.
Like happiness is success too, right? But it's just, I think that drive to succeed and to prove to the world that you're smart and good and you can do it all yourself is a very youthful drive. And some people leave it behind, and some people it stays with them for the rest of their life.
It's almost like as we get older, well, for me, it's like I think for a huge part of when I was younger, and then even the start of working in television and radio, is that it's like you're looking for love in all the wrong places. And then you finally realize it's like, oh, I've been focusing on the wrong, like I've been wanting people to just love me. This is for me. I just wanted people to love me. And then now I realize it's like, oh, actually, no, it's like it's more important to be loved by the people that you actually love back. And I think like even just that story you told about your last day at Triple J and that love you probably felt very authentic and genuine and probably stood out, which is different than just people at a festival saying like, hey, great, which is nice, but people saying love you on radio. And then even you not working and focusing on like spending time with your parents or family, it's a whole different form of love that we probably can't learn until we're a bit older and gone through the ringer a little bit.
Yeah. You lose people and then you realize not to take stuff for granted as well. I've lost friends suddenly before their time, and that's been a massive wake-up call. I lived in Sydney for 14 years and then decided now's the time to come back to my hometown of Melbourne. But a huge driving force of that was not just spending more time with my parents as they got older, but also my oldest friends who I've been lucky to have since I was, in some cases 12 years old. Met them at high school. We've got a little WhatsApp crew called the Core Crew. Sorry to everyone who's not in it.
It does sound a bit exclusive, yeah.
But it's true. Like it is what it sounds like. It's like the core. Like this is our core. These are the people that we've all known the longest. We've now known each other more than 30 years. And being the best person I can for them and being present for them, and also knowing that they know exactly who I am, for better or worse, and they're going to call me on my bullshit, is so much more enriching than someone who's never met you before saying, I love your show. So it's, and nothing to, that's also great, but just that stuff is important. And I now live very close to many of them, and being able to be part of their lives is, again, regularly in the best kind of friendship way, where it's like, I'm just going to pop around and flop on the couch. There's no, let's make a date. Oh, we should really catch up. It's just like, I'm here. Cup of tea time. It's the best thing of all.
I heard the founder of Airbnb talking about like his life and career, and he said that he was like really, really busy and burnt out for a while. And of course, like when the pandemic hit, like that really hit Airbnb, and, Airbnb have had a lot of like controversies, of course, since they started. But he said one thing which is interesting, because he did a huge name drop. He said, I became friends with Barack Obama for a while.
Jesus.
Pretty big.
It was huge. But he said he sort of somehow became friends with him, and then Obama became a sort of a mentor, I guess, for him, and he would like turn to him for advice. And he felt, and during the pandemic, he just, forget his name, Brian, I think his name is, he felt really, really lonely, like really lonely in the world. And even though he was the business was going really bad, but he just didn't have a partner. He was literally by himself. And he said to Obama, he said, this is the weirdest story. He said to Obama, I think I need to find a wife. I think I need to find like a girlfriend, because, I'm so busy. I just need someone to that will be with me and that will love me. And Obama's like, you don't need a wife. You need friends. And it was just like this. I thought it was just such good advice, because is like, if you get a wife now, you're going to treat her so badly. Yeah. You're so busy.
You're not
stressed out. You actually just need friends. And so from then he kind of reached out to his old friends that he hadn't, because he was so busy at work. He reached out to his old friends from school who really knew him and were his true like kind of ride or die kind of core crew, and kind of who he hadn't spoken to, didn't know what they were doing anymore, didn't know how many kids they had, didn't know the kids' names, and got back in touch with them, and it really changed his life.
Yeah. They're the people that see you, right? But also it's different. And I know that this isn't always the case with, romantic relationships, but you're sometimes nicer to your friends than you are to your partner. You're sort of like, oh, I can't do that. I can't take that for granted. You've got to sort of step up. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to be, especially as we all get older, to be reminded of how important those friendships and those relationships are in your life. They should never be taken for granted. They should always be front and center because they're just, they're central to who we are as people.
Beautiful.
Zan, it is such a thrill chatting to you. I feel like the net session with Don Bradman wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think about a couple of people who might just spare a thought for the people who thought they're in the core crew, but they've just found out they're not.
I know. That's brutal.
It must have been close. It's so fascinating to chat to you. Like Ryan, spent so much time listening to you on air, and I think you often forget about when you're so used to listening to someone all the time, you're so used to that version of them, and to hear this side of you has just been so fascinating. It really is. Congratulations on everything that you have achieved.
Thank you.
Just in awe of you professionally, but more so as a person now. So thank you for joining us. I was about to say on take 5. Take 6. Take 6.
Great podcast. Subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.